trends are, it's very easy for someone like me to see if something is workable or not and make sure there's a good transition from the higher density into the lower density, and that I believe would be the key to some of the planning issues. Thank you.
I'm going to just continue to pass it along.
Thank you. Actually, we discussed this and had this issue in our municipality as well. The idea is there are certain areas within any kind of city and any kind of municipality that have these areas where you want very low density, and then there's areas where higher density is acceptable. The reason, and I actually attended the Design Institute in Jupiter Design Institute, talking about urban design and urban design guidelines in the area of development and building. And I actually have to tell you, I was very upset with the overbuilding and too much building that I actually passed an 18-month residential building moratorium in the city of Homestead. It made a lot of developers very, very angry, but it was the right thing to do at the time, and I'm very proud that I did it. There are areas in high traffic corridors where higher density works, and the whole focus on a higher density area in the traffic corridor is to get people out of their cars, is to get people out of their vehicles. But the only way that's going to work is if you get the whole package. So you can't do a bait and switch, which sometimes happens in our area, where you give the developer, let's say you give him density credits for having it in a high density area, plus they do the urban design guidelines where they put the buildings closer up, and then you have the garbage and everything in the back where it can't be seen by the public. What you want is you want the whole package. You want to make sure that the developer does the higher density, that it is acceptable, and that there is a traffic corridor, and that within that mixed PUD, that there is shopping, that there are things that those people can go to that are within a walking distance. And what happens very often is you get the high density, but you don't get the walkability, and then that's where it doesn't work. In the areas where you have a higher density and not the walkability, the density would need to be reduced and should be reduced. And that's what we've always done as well. I mean, there are some areas where high density works and there are areas where it doesn't. Unfortunately, very often you don't get the full package. So only in the areas of high density, those only work where you have great walkability, where you can get out of your vehicles, you can walk to the store, you can walk to the grocery store, you can walk to entertainment as well. That's the only time it works. Thank you.
Two parties involved in this question that haven't been mentioned so far. Yeah?
You just want to stand up.
Fran's telling me to stand up. Two parties need to be managed in this situation are the developers and the citizens. The citizens. I live in a neighborhood where we understand that buildings have to be a little bit denser. But if you have one-story buildings, and if you put in two-story buildings, you double the density. If you put in three-story buildings, you triple the density. Developers have understood that the new mantra is infill and density along transit corridors, so you get something like this. Developer says, well, we're going to build a 40-story building at Dateland. And we say, we don't want that. He says, well, I thought that's what we're supposed to do now that we're not sprawling out at the edge of the Everglades. We're supposed to build up. As long as we allow developers to get more than they really need, they'll keep on asking for it. The fact is, the places that we know and love around the world, the places that we travel to walk the streets, don't have 40-story buildings or even 20-story buildings. You can get livable densities, the kind that Linda was speaking about, with 2, 3, 4 stories, and we need to hold the line there as well. There are a number of lines to be held, and we have to understand that developers will push until we say no.
This is an issue we've gone through in Palmetto Bay, and we have had several charrettes in Palmetto Bay. First of all, I firmly believe the people support what they help create. In public input, you may not always get the answer everyone likes. Public input gets you to the understanding of where you need to go and to try to formulate the policy of how you need to get there. We did the Franjo Triangle US 1 Commercial Island charrette that actually lowered some density through the use of mixed use. At the beginning, I met with a lot of homeowner groups that were very concerned with all this density going up. Well, with FARs and that, they didn't understand there were certain properties that could go as high as 27 stories. But due to using things such as mixed use, where they weren't entitled to before, we brought down that density to about 6 plus another stepped stories in there, to 6 where it was previously 27. We also brought down, made sure we stepped and tried to be compatible with the neighborhood, where we came down in some areas to 4, then to 3, then to 2. And one of the things I wanted was a hard line on any further commercial encroachment. What we try to do is we try to do node type density, and that's what I believe. Not lateral lines along US 1, because I think once somebody gets in their car to try to get to the lanes, they're going to stay in their car and continue their destination. So we specifically have tried to do sustainable, walkable, all within a concentric area to get people to a designated bus lane pickup spot to where they can kind of forget about their car and try to create an area that's pedestrian friendly, that's bicycle friendly, and that they can leave their car at home. And we're working on, with our village hall, we're on the unfunded list, but at least we're on the list of trying to get parking garage to enhance the transit corridor, get people there, get them into mass transit, out of their car, and get traffic out of the neighborhood. Thank you.
There was a study that was done within the last 10 years called the Watershed Plan, which was done by a tremendous number of groups of government agencies, environmental agencies, and just every aspect that they could think of to be able to do this together. And they proposed, because they say between then and 2050 the population is going to double. So they proposed 3 scenarios. One, if there'd be sprawl, spread, another one that would be an in-between scenario, and a third one that they called smart growth. And of the smart growth, as I read it, and as I read all of them, seemed to me to make the most sense, and they agreed as well that it was the best overall for air quality, water quality, wastewater, potable water, agricultural land, developmental densities, public schools, proximity of residents to transit, parks, recreation, open spaces, etc. And if you drive down US 1, which is where the main corridor was, say from Cutler Bay down towards Homestead, you can see the vast amounts of open land, and it makes sense that that's where they have the highest density projected. And they did it in 2 steps. Between now and 2026 and 2025, and then 2026 to 2050. Most of everything was kept inside the UDB. So, given that, and given that there's a tremendous amount of land still available, I would propose the following, and that is that those who want to build outside the UDB, let them submit yearly applications now for 2026. That they have to renew every year if they want to still have their eye on a particular piece of land, and we'll look at it 2024, 2025. I think that would be a smart way to go and listen to what the experts say. Thank you.
I would believe that a very good design of mixed-use facilities along the US 1 corridor would be a phenomenal idea, as long as we don't have towering structures that are, just massively huge. I would believe that it would benefit the transit system that is a little weak on the south end of the county and would force more people to take the transit, which is a desired effect of having people live in the pocket areas. A mixed use would also provide store frontage on the bottom levels of some of these buildings that would make just going downstairs to pick up a few items a feasible thing versus driving across town to get Publix.